Okay, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay. Here at Cafe Oleh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need here in Israel to succeed, whether that is reading and paying your bills, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, flirting, dating, job interviewing, complaining, all the everyday things you do in your native language in your country of origin, but here in Israel in modern Hebrew. As always, we'd like to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We need to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover. You can always be in touch with us by email at hebrew@nbn.org.il. If you are joining us live on Zoom, you can write to us in the chat box here on the Zoom window, in the Zoom menu, excuse me, with any questions, comments, concerns, but most importantly, requests for topics. You can also check our YouTube playlist with all of our previous lessons. We have more than 120 lessons up there, 18,000 plus views. We've covered a whole range of materials and we'll keep reviewing them and adding more to it, but it's a great resource for you, completely free. Just go to youtube.com, type in Cafe Oleh. The very first thing that'll pop up is our a truncated playlist. Click on view full playlist. You'll see all of our previous lessons there. And the last 30, 40 or so, we'll have the spreadsheet vocabulary that we go through each week. Yep, we always want to hear from you. This program doesn't work unless we hear from you and what topics you'd like us to cover. We also get a lot of feedback, not just by email, but also in the comments on YouTube. So if that's the way you prefer to write to us, by all means do so. We will check it as well. Today, we're going to do a review. And I said that's our spring session was going to be full of review sessions, and this one is no different because it's always important to review. You're not going to get fluent unless you practice and go over topics we've already covered instead of a new one each week. But this one is a big one because, number one, we haven't done it in a while. I think the last lesson we did was 2 years ago on this. And this is one of those topics that if there's a handful of topics that always confuses, frustrates, angers new immigrants or potential immigrants to Israel, it's this topic. There's only a few of them. Other ones, once you explain it a little bit, people calm down. This one, though, always riles people up. This is today automated phone menus. I did my best in trying to record one or two of the big companies' automated phone menus off my phone. Unfortunately, the audio, for whatever reason, did not want to take. So instead, we're going to go through these by text. And what's good about that is the vast majority of the automated phone menus that you're going to need to encounter in Israel all have the same script, or they all use the same language. So even if it's not the exact one you did, and I also worried about that, if I recorded my Kupat Cholim, my healthcare fund, and my internet provider getting invariably lots of questions. Well, wait a minute, that's not how mine sounds. Free class, folks. We do as much as we can to tailor make these things, but we're at 250 people. I can only do so much. But that being said, the script is almost always the same. Even if the voice is different and the number, which one to press is in a different order, they're all ultimately the same. And more importantly, I bring up something a lot, which is I didn't serve in Boy Scouts or in any Tnuat Noel youth movement, but I'm always about the Scouts, whether it's here in Israel or elsewhere in the world. And the way you say the Scout motto in Hebrew is Heye Nachon, be prepared. I'm always of the belief of being prepared before you walk out the door, whether that's making sure you have everything on you, to looking at a map before you leave the house to have a general sense of your direction, whether or not you have a general sense of direction, or when you're calling for customer support, having the vocabulary in front of you to know what to ask. And this gets very important for those who are learning Hebrew because they fall into the same trap each time, which is, say it with me, folks, the English option is never an option. We get this comment all the time. Nefesh B'Nefesh for sure gets it all the time. I hear it all the time. Why don't they offer an English option? Or why do they offer an English option and no one there speaks Hebrew? Or the options, excuse me, they all speak Hebrew, or the options immediately go to Hebrew. Folks, there aren't enough of us. There aren't enough native English in Israel to warrant it. And I'll say that until I get blue in the face. It's not going to happen. Better to learn Hebrew than win this fight, unless you're going to come work with us at Nefesh B'Nefesh and bring over tens, if not hundreds of thousands of native English speakers on Aliyah. God willing, that day will come. But in the meantime, it's not going to happen. You need to learn in Hebrew. And that's what we're going to do today. Equally important, when to plug in what you need to say. A lot of things that you need to say, you can quickly look up in all the various online dictionaries and print dictionaries we've talked about. I'm going to take you through the vast majority of companies you need to call on the phone. Your healthcare, your internet, your bank. There's always a couple others. If you have gas, natural gas in your house, or the electricity company, that's what we're going to look at today, the language they use in the automated phone menus. I'm also going to remind you multiple times tonight about the apps. Always use a company's internet website, whether it's on your computer or on your phone. Do not use the app unless you are fluent in Hebrew. You can always use the internet website of a service provider, phones, internet, healthcare, etc. And if you use it on your phone in a browser, you're able to use a plug-in translator like Google Translate. If you use the app, you probably won't be able to, and there probably won't be an English function. Don't believe the hype, folks. Every service that's provided by an app, especially for big providers, you can get on their website. Okay, so if you need me to say that a couple more times, I'm happy to do so. If you have Kupat Cholim Klalit and they keep saying we recommend you download our app, you can skip that, folks. You're going to be okay. You're going to get all the same services using their website, even on your phone, as opposed to using the app. That being said, let's start talking phone menus. So as always, you will get a copy of this vocab spreadsheet as early as tomorrow morning. It will also be attached with the recording of this lesson up on YouTube in the next day or so. So first off, what do they call it? Sometimes it's simply called a tafrit. Tafrit is a menu, right? That word you can look up easily. The word you can't look up, or the expression you cannot look up easily in any dictionary, is nituv sichot. Nituv, you need to think of as the word for routing. Linatev is to route someone or something somewhere. So when you hear you call your Kupat Cholim or your internet provider or your bank or your local municipality, anything you need to call up to get service on a phone, oftentimes they'll say something like Lalan Nituv Sichot. The following is the routing or the phone menu for your conversation, meaning it's like any phone menu anywhere in the world. They need to direct you to the right person, or at least start filtering you out so that when you get to a live person, you're going to be able to, they're going to have more information and hopefully shorten the need to talk with them. Okay, so you're going to hear the terms nituv sichot. Nituv sichot does not mean recording your call. It does not mean anything other than routing your call to the right person or the right office. Some of the things we're going to see in this list that you're going to hear again and again when you call any of these are words that you're going to hear all the time, by the way, in modern Hebrew. This is a great one. Ana or na. Ana or na mean please, but they mean please in a very formal way. This is not bevakasha. You're not going to hear bevakasha on these calls for two reasons. Sorry, just 1 second. Number one is because, yes, customer service exists in Israel. The old stereotypes of bad customer service, while they do exist like in any country, are quickly fading away. You can get really good customer service over the phone, just like you can in person. And so the reason is they're using, one of the reasons is they're elevating the language. So they're saying to you, please, in a very formal setting. The second one is something we talk about all the time here as understanding Hebrew and thus Israeli lifestyle and life hacks here. Hebrew is not built to be a multisyllabic language. Short words, fewer letters, fewer syllables are always preferred over longer words. So look at it again. Ana, 2 syllables, or simply na, both of which is a formal way to say please. Bevakasha, 4 syllables for 1 word. Ana or na will always win in something like a recording or something that's written out, like instructions, right? It's fewer letters, it's fewer syllables. It's always going to be the default preference in Hebrew. That's two reasons why you're not going to hear bavakasha very often, at least in the automated parts. Okay, one thing you're going to hear a lot when you call up any of these, let's say it's my Kupat Cholim. I have Klalit. Klalit is the largest Kupat Cholim. Kupat Cholim is your healthcare, public healthcare provider. There are 4 of them in Israel. Klalit is the biggest. And when you call yours, it's going to say all sorts of things. And one thing it's going to say, Hakishu et mispar teudat zehut shilcha. Right? To start off, it's going to ask you to please press Hakishu, your teudat zehut, your national ID number. The verb lehakesh is to press. It also means to tap or to strike. We use this verb, for example, to press or to strike a doorbell. But we also do it when we're talking about on your smartphone or anything where there's a button to press. Okay, that's the verb you're going to hear. Hakishu is the command form in the plural. Hakesh is the singular masculine version of the command. The verb is lehakesh. Okay, that is different from another verb, which again, if you are translating this literally or using some very poor translation services, they're going to translate them the exact same way, and it's wrong. Lehakesh is different than our next verb, lechayeg. Okay, you're probably going to see things that say press or dial. They both mean to press or to dial. They don't. Lehakesh means to press. Lechayeg means to dial. And this is a very important distinction because oftentimes when you get on a phone menu, it's going to tell you if you need a specific service, Ana, please, chaygu, a whole number. When someone tells you on an automated phone menu to chaygu, first off, again, that's the command form of the verb lechayeg, it means to hang up and redial. Lechayeg means to dial. It does not mean to press. So if it tells you, for example, the Shirutei Platinum, right? If you have the upgraded platinum service with Klalit, Ana Chaygu Kochavit Achad Shtaim Shalosh. Please dial asterisk 123. If you were to type in at that moment, if you were to lehakesh asterisk 123 Kochavit Achad Shtaim Shalosh, it would get you nowhere. Okay, because they specifically use the verb lechayeg to tell you you need to redial a whole new number. Okay, so when you hear that word lechayeg, it means to dial. Lechayeg comes from verbs that have to do with chug, a circle or a club, because the idea is that the verb lechayeg for to dial, like on the phone, comes from the old rotary phones. I'm sure at least one of you on this call has seen a rotary phone, if not used it as well, right? Where you had to rotate the wheel in order to dial each number. That's where this verb comes in. It comes from a Hebrew word that means a circle. Okay, so first off, you need to understand the difference between these two verbs. They're not interchangeable, especially on a phone menu. You're also going to hear two different things that is on every cell phone and on every ad telling you how to call a number, either kochavit or sulamit. Okay, some of this may be basic and maybe review, but it's important because these terms are used all the time, anytime you have to use a phone to call up for support. We're going to get to the most important part about customer support in a second. First off, kochavit. Kochavit comes from the word kochav, meaning star. Kochavit, however, means an asterisk. That is the case whether it's on your keyboard or on your phone, or if it's telling you to call Kochavit, for example, Kupat Cholim Klalit is Kochavit 2700. Okay, that's what Kochavit means. Sometimes when you are asked to put in data, for example, your Mispar Teudat Zehut, your national ID number, it will tell you at the end, Uvesiyum Hakishu Sulamit. And at the end, or at the commencement of typing in your number, Hakishu, press Sulamit. Sulamit is the pound sign. Okay, it comes from the word sulam, which in Hebrew is a ladder, right? If you look at the pound sign, you could think of it as two rungs, horizontal rungs of a ladder, and the two poles on each side. Okay, the word for pound sign in Hebrew, sulamit. Okay, very important distinction here, folks. Just like in English, we have the word digit and we have the word number. In Hebrew, we have the same thing. A digit is a sifra, and digits are sfarot. This is different than a number. One number is a mispar, multiple numbers misparim. Okay, same root that gives us the verbs, to count and to tell and all sorts of other things related. But sfarot are digits, right? They're going to say, for example, if you call the bank or your credit card company, hakishu et arba sfarot האחרונות של כרטיס האשראי שלך. hakishu, press, et, it's before direct object, hakishu et arba sfarot, the 4 digits, האחרונות, the last 4-digit numbers, של כרטיס האשראי שלך, of your credit card. Okay, that's what they mean by digits, the actual physical things that are on your accounts or that are on your cards or whatever it may be. Okay, equally important is a term you'll sometimes hear, especially on older services, usually governmental services. Not necessarily more modern ones or supposedly modern ones like banks or healthcare, but especially governmental services. If you have to call up the Misrad Pnim, Ministry of Interior, or Misrad Rishui, the driver's license offices, whatever it may be, sometimes they're going to tell you, Hakishu et mispar teudat zehut, kolel sifrat bikoret. You've probably all heard this before. Hakishu, press, et mispar teudat zehut, your national ID number, kolel sifrat habikoret, including what we call in Hebrew sifrat habikoret. Sifrat habikoret in English is called a security digit. For those of you who are not well versed or not up on your surveillance and cryptography, as I know we all are normally, right? Not. Sifrat bikoret or security digit is simply an extra digit put at the end of a number, a random number, to increase the security aspects of whatever it is. So whether that's your credit card or your national ID number or your passport number, a lot of countries and a lot of services add an extra number. So the 9th digit in your national ID number, in your mispal teudat zehut, is this security digit. It's a random number assigned to you to ensure the further safety of your number. That's all it means when they say that, right? There's nothing else to it. Okay. Let's say you put in all your information, you put in your credit card number and da, 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 da. Now you need to get to the good stuff. You need to get to, I have my question, right? I prepped in advance. I know how to say it in Hebrew. I know what it sounds like in Hebrew because it's an automated phone menu. What am I listening for? So first off, you're going to hear this a lot. Lekabalat meda al. You've probably all heard this, right? I can't do that voice. Lekabalat meda al. It's a little bit deeper than mine sometimes. Lekabalat meda al means to get information on. Kabbalah is not reception, and it's not Jewish mysticism. Kabbalah here is the gerund. It's the verbal noun of the verb lekabel. For the act of receiving or for the act of getting, for getting information about, and I should say that here, make that even easier, for getting info on, right? You're going to hear that a lot. לקבלת מידע על התור הקיים, הקישו אחד. For getting information on your current toll appointment, hakishu, press echad, 1. לקבלת מידע על שעות הפעילות. To get information on שעות הפעילות, on our office hours, press 2, right? And so forth. But this is going to be the preamble, the beginning of the specifics you're looking for. So when you hear lekabbalat midah al, your ears should be primed to hear what's next, right? It's going to modify what you're what you're looking for is modifying likabalat midah. To get information on, press this. Okay. Most of the times when we're calling a service provider, healthcare fund, the bank, whatever it may be, we're trying to lezimun tor. Lezimun tor is again the verbal noun of lizamen. Lizamen tor simply means to make an appointment. There's another way to say it, which is likboa tor, but oftentimes when you're calling up an automated menu, it'll say lezimun tor, right? To make an appointment, to find a zman, time for your appointment. One of the newest ones I heard today, I was calling, forget, it was either my healthcare Clalit or Bezek, which is the big telecommunications company in Israel. And the term they kept using when I was trying to record it for you all was Mane Enoshi. I loved this term. Mane Enoshi is a human, let me write it here, a human response. Okay, ma'aneh comes from the verb la'anot, to answer. So a ma'aneh is an answer or response, and enoshi is human, right? So it's asking you if you want to speak to someone regarding this, press here. So when you hear ma'aneh enoshi, that means you're not looking for an automated response. Sometimes the information we need is simply an automated thing they can pull up, especially when you call, for example, the bank or your credit card. It'll start telling you what your balance is or how much you owe or the latest transaction without even asking for it. But when you want to hear someone, and we're always going to get to that point, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, Ma'aneh enoshi is always a good start. That means to actually speak to someone for a human response as opposed to an automated response, right? Ma'aneh enoshi. Okay, great term to hear. I think it was Bezek, so many people will get that. This is the one, folks. If you've zoned out already, this is the one you are always listening to, whether it's in Hebrew or in English or any other language in the world, in any country in the world. Whenever you call a service provider and you are first put in an automated phone menu, you are almost always going to be looking for this option, Lenetzig Sherut, or Lenetzigei Sherut, or some other formulation of the word netzig, which means a representative, and sherut, which means service, right? You want to speak to a service representative almost anytime you call somewhere because you want that ma'aneh enoshi, you want a human response or a human answer, even if they have to get back to you at another time, right? But when you get to someone, you get a little bit more information, you get a little bit more control over the situation. So sometimes you have to wait till the end of the whole nituv sichot of the various options on your call to get to the option for netzik shirut. Usually it's the last one, right? Hakishu efes. Lenetzik shirut, hakishu efes, o hamtinu alakav. Lenatzig Shirut Hakishu Efes, for a service representative, press 0, or Hamtinu Alakav, or wait on the line. Okay, either one you're going to hear. You notice, by the way, I'm writing some of these out and some of these I'm not writing out because, simply put, this is going to be all on your phone. You need to be able to listen to and work on your audio comprehension as much as your visual comprehension of Hebrew. It's no less important, especially when we talk about conversations, but certainly phone menus are a big one. Okay. Ana hamten, ana hamtinu. Please wait, right? If you press service representative, oftentimes you're going to get please wait. Ana, that very polite way to say please. Hamten or hamtinu are both the command forms of the verb lehamtin, which we talked about a few weeks ago, which means to wait. Okay. You're going to wait. Some of them have really good waiting music, music in the background. Some of them have terrible ones, I think on purpose to weed us out. A lot of services, by the way, now offer a service where instead of you waiting on the line, they'll say, Ana hashiru et hamispar shelcha v'nachzor elecha behekdem. Right? Leave your number and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. It's a service that's used a lot because there's a crackdown by the state of Israel on service providers to make sure that they get back to customers in a decent amount of time so that you're not stuck on call for a long time. So they made this workaround, which basically says press here to note that you were here, and we'll get back to you as soon as a Natsig Shirut service representative is available. It's a nice service when it works. When it doesn't work, that only is going to make you angrier. So but it is an option, especially if you get tired of the music. Usually they'll chime in every minute or so to say, Nim'as lachem milhamtin al hakav. Are you tired of waiting on the line? Hakishu echad v'nachzor elechem b'mispar ze behektem. Press 1 v'nachzor elechem b'mispar ze. We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you on this specific phone number behektem as soon as possible. Okay. But you'll hear all of this. And the wait times have gone down for a lot of things. Sometimes they'll tell you what the wait time is. We talked about how to say the wait time on in our the other week, both here in constructing new words and so forth. That's actually one of the sentences we had. And then before you are transferred, you're going to hear hinchem muavarim le. You are plural, transferred. You are being transferred to Natsig Shirut, or maybe a name of a person. Okay, when you hear that, that's a good sign. That means you're about to get to someone who's human. Okay. These represent the vast majority of words in any phone menu you're going to hear. There aren't many deviations. Again, sometimes the order in the Nituv Sichot is going to be different. Sometimes they're going to use slightly different words depending on the specific topic at hand. But the point is they're all using the same commands and verbs to linatev otanu, to direct us, to route us to the right person or the right office or the right company. Right? So if you are calling a municipality, you should already have prepared what is the word you're looking for. For example, if you need to pay your arnona, you're going to listen to the word arnona, or you're going to listen to the word for tashlum, right? The word tashlum, payment. If you are calling for a tav chanaya, a parking permit, that's what you're going to listen to. But all these other words are going to direct you to find that specific one, or to a Netzig Shirut, a service representative. Okay, so again, there's no need to turn to us and say, well, wait a minute, Maccabi does it differently. I know they do it differently. Every company is going to do it differently, but number one, they don't, because you're going to hear the same voice and the same words again and again, maybe in a different order. And second, they're all using the same bank of vocabulary. Okay. I'm going to keep going. I see we have a lot in the chat and not so much in the Q&A. Just as a reminder, folks, if you have questions about this specific class, please write in the Q&A. I'll be looking at the chat only tomorrow. Q&A is for tonight's class only, if you're joining us live on Zoom. Okay. Now we have, once you get to Natsig Shirut, what are you going to say? And more importantly, what are they going to say? Right? We focus a lot on what we got to say, but as communication, as I talk about all the time, communication is obviously more than just us talking. It's also us listening, right? And so how can we hear, how can we understand what's being said to us, even if it's really fast? Okay, let's say you get the line, "Hinchem muavarim Natsig Shirut." You are being transferred to a Natsig Shirut. You get a beep because it's transferring you over, and then it's someone on the other line, either really polite or really tired or really grumpy. But they're going to say, whether they have your name or not, they're going to say ask one of the four questions to you. Maybe with shalom or boker tov or tzoraim tovim, maybe a general greeting at first. And then they're going to ask you, bima אפשר לעזור לך או לך? במה אני יכול או יכולה לעזור לך או לך? איך אפשר לעזור לך? איך אני יכולה לעזור לך? Okay. In principle, all four of these questions are asking the exact same thing. How can I help you? Okay. They're asking, the exact same thing. How can I or how may I help you? Okay. There's no deviation. The slight difference of may and can is irrelevant. There is, however, a slight difference in the Hebrew. When someone says to you, b'ma אפשר לעזור, or bima ani yachol or yechola la'azor. How may I help you? Bima efshar la'azor. The lach or lecha is optional because it's a one-on-one conversation, right? They're not speaking to a group of people, so therefore they know who they're talking to. So just one second. Okay. I see that some people couldn't hear me at first. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now. Let me just turn up the volume here. Okay. What we are hearing, the difference though is the bima. It could translate literally in English as to in what may I help you, or in what capacity, in what topic may I help you. This is a this is a question you're going to hear when it's a more specific question. They already have information about you, or you've been routed, right, through that nituv sichot to a very specific department or office. The more general way of asking it is the more English translation, right? How can I help you, or how may I help you? All of these mean the same thing. Just know there's a slight difference between bima versus in the sense that bima is a more specific one. You've called the Arnona department at your local area, at your municipality, and now they're asking, how can I help you? In the context of Arnona, not in the context of the municipality, right? You've already specified what you need help on. If you called your municipality, let's say it's a smaller municipality and there's only a handful of people, maybe there's only one bank of Nitzigei Shirut, of service representatives, in which case they may just ask you, איך אפשר לעזור? How can I help you in a general sense, and you need to direct them, okay? Now, we have a couple things here, and then I want to get it, this quickly leads into expressing opinions. There's a lot of vocabulary on here. Again, review is always good. Let's say you're having a conversation and it's not getting anywhere, right? Let's say you're not getting your questions answered, you're not getting in the way that you want, something is not right. Okay, so one of the things you can say is, depending on your gender and the person gender you're speaking to, אני רוצה or אני רוצה לדבר עם המנהל, המנהלת שלך, שלך. You're going to have to do a lot of picking and choosing based on gender here. But the point is, you're saying, I want to speak with your manager, and you're going to say it in a very firm way. אני רוצה לדבר עם המנהל שלך. סליחה, אני רוצה לדבר עם המנהל שלך. Okay, that's how you're going to say it. And you're going to make it gender specific based on how you are and the person you're speaking to. But this is when you need to escalate something and you need to speak to the manager. Not in a way that has totally taken it off the deep end, but rather, we're not solving this, or this person is just not helping me in the right way. I need to speak with the manager. This is one option of some of the things you're going to say. Okay. What happens if it's an automated phone call that you did that, leave your number and you can't speak to them now? Or it's a general, a netzig shirut of some company or some amuta, nonprofit, especially ahead of a holiday like next week, Shavuot, calls you in the middle of something and it's a telemarketer and they're just talking. And you need to say to them, sorry, I'm busy at the moment. Sorry, or מצטער, or מצטערת, אני עסוק, or עסוקה כרגע. Sorry, either you can say sorry, or מצטער, the Hebrew version of to be sorry. מצטער, male, מצטערת, female. אני עסוק, male, אני עסוקה, female, כרגע, at the moment. Sorry, I'm busy at the moment. Okay? And then you can follow up with, אפשר לחזור אליי? Can you call me back? Literally, can you come back to me? But when you say אפשר לחזור אליי, means can you call me back when you're talking to someone as a netzig shirut. This one, thankfully, is not as important anymore, but it is still a crucial one to have in your back pocket, folks. And this is where we get into our life hacks again. אפשר לשלוח במייל, can you send this by email? It used to be, and it still is in some service providers, that they just would talk really fast, right? And they would promise you a deal and put together a deal, all these things, and would be on the phone, and nothing sent to you by email until after you agreed to pay something. If you don't have time, or you don't trust you're understanding the whole conversation, you can simply say, Slicha, efshar lishloach b'mail. Excuse me, can you send this by email? Okay, that clears up a lot of things on your side to make sure you understand everything that's happening, and equally that they understand you're actually going to pay attention to what you're talking about. So if you're getting a new service from Bezek, for example, say, efshar lishloach b'mail, right? Whatever you're talking about. Efshar lishloach et hachozeh, contract, or et hatnaim, the conditions b'mail. Can you send the conditions by email so I can look it over, is what you're saying? And then sometimes you realize they're trying to work you over or they can't do it. And my answer always, if a service provider that I'm interested in can't take the time to write out an email or an official form to me and say, Tov, אני לא משלם על כלום בלי משהו בכתב. I don't pay for anything without seeing it first in writing. I'll write that and add it before we send out this list to you, but that's always a good line, right? To say to someone, sorry, I don't agree to anything that I can't see written. Okay, that's an important one because, again, that used to be the case in Israel. You'd go get a cell phone plan and they would scribble a whole bunch of lines and numbers on a piece of paper, and that would be your contract. That, thank God, is no longer the case, but there are some service providers that still try to do that. Now you can simply just ask for everything written down. Okay, let's say you need to express an opinion. And we've done this before in the past, but I'm adding it to this class to make it clear that when we're asking for help, we're asking for support, it doesn't just have to be so transactional of ani tzarich likboa tol. And we've talked about that multiple times, and you can look that up on your own. I want to piece together the words that we use to express an opinion, because maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to complain, and that's why you're talking to a service representative. Or maybe the service you're getting is not great, and before you escalate it, you need to explain to them why it's wrong, right? So I've included in here all the words that we've gone over in the past that are about expressing an opinion. Im kol hakavod, with all due respect. Lav davka, not quite. Lo be'echreach, or lo be'echrach, not necessarily. Bichlal lo, לדעתי, in my opinion. אני חולק or אני חולקת על, I take issue with. All sorts of other ways to express an opinion and to complete our sentences, right? Again, we talked about that a few weeks ago, and it's always important to say, even at a beginner's level, that we can get away from keep using the same handful of words. Tov, lekabel, lasim, all those basic words that are important, but they don't get us far in a conversation. These are the fillers that we use in everyday conversation, right? Like if you want to agree with someone who just provides you with good service, or they're saying, you know, they're criticizing some aspect of the company, you can say something like tachles, right? Tachles in Hebrew slang means you said it. Or legamre, absolutely. Or mamash, totally, right? All these different ways to further create a conversation so you don't feel stuck, right? In addition to which you're already writing out what you're asking for, right? You're taking the time to look up the words. You're using the words here to frame what you need to ask. And then you have some stock answers already ready to go. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm late on a call, late on a payment, and I need to call to deal with it, right? Let's say it's the municipality and it's my Alnona bill, and I have an outstanding debt I need to pay, and I'm trying to see if there's a way that I can do it, or I didn't get the mails in the first place, and I'm trying to answer them why this is the case, and they're getting very angry with me, or they're threatening me with all things. One of the best ways to deflect and deflate a situation, to calm a situation, is saying zeu, right? But not in that tone like I just said. You're going to say something like, someone's asking me, why didn't you pay the bill on time? למה לא שילמת את החשבון בזמן? זהו, הייתי בחו"ל ולא יכולתי לעשות את זה. Exactly, I was abroad and I wasn't able to answer it, right? When you say zehu like that, it allows for, yeah, I know, I did bad, but I'm trying to explain to you to calm the situation a bit. That's what this means when we say zehu. Okay, you have a lot of different options here and how to buffer a conversation when you're asking for support on an automated menu, let alone get through a menu. And we've talked about this all the time. This is a phrase, folks, I need you to practice all the time because you're going to hear it and use it all the time. Esmach im or esmach she. It means I'd love for it to happen. I'd love if or I'd love for something to happen. Esmach shetachzor elai. I'd love for you to get back to me. Or I'd really like you to get back to me. Esmach im tivdeki li etze. I'd love if you check that for me. Right? Esmach im teashru li etze. I'd love for you to approve that for me. I'd love for you to approve that for me. Right? This is a great way, again, when you start to ask for a question, or if, for example, someone answers, Shalom, b'ma ani yachol la'azor. Hi, how can I be of help? Shalom, esmach im or esmach she, and then what you're asking for. Simple as that. Okay. Really, I don't want to say it's simple. I don't want to say it's complicated. But the fact is that just like one of the ways to learn a language is to follow the patterns and to see when patterns repeat. This is a great pattern. Automated phone menus in Israel. It's all the same language. Just like when you are in other countries and you hear the same voice and the same words again in the same menu even, same thing in Hebrew in Israel. Okay, I'm going to pause here because I see we have a bunch of questions, and I want to be sure we get to them and then talk about next week's class. Toll is preferred over pkisha, or they used in different circumstances? Great question. Great question. So I said lezimun toll. Toll or tor, however you pronounce the letter resh in modern Hebrew, means an appointment. It literally means a line or a queue, right? To stand in a queue, or lamod batol, right? To stand in a line or to stand in a queue, depending on what type of English you speak. Tol means an appointment. Pkisha means a meeting. Sometimes you will hear lizimun pkishaim, to make an appointment or more to schedule a meeting with. You're not going to hear that as much because a pkisha is usually something like a one-on-one long discussion. An appointment is something you're going to have with a lawyer, with a doctor, with a social worker, with something that's a bit more transactional. Pkisha is more like a meeting rather than an appointment. And what's the difference? I'd ask you what the difference is in English between an appointment and a meeting. Okay, you wouldn't schedule a meeting with your doctor. You would schedule an appointment. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, great question. Thank you for asking it. Is there any way to slow down menu options? I'm following the vocabulary, but sometimes it is fast and I miss it. Yeah, I was really hoping to be able to record some of these automated phone menus for exactly that purpose and then pause it on my side. I'm still going to try before we upload this video because it's really important. That being said, unfortunately, no, which is why I give you the commands for the menu, and then you, on your own side, your own homework, find the exact thing you need, right? So if you need office hours, you're going to listen to Sha'ot Peilut. If you need to Lezimun Tol, if you need to schedule an appointment, you're going to listen for that. If nothing makes sense, right? For example, when I call Klalit, they have the option of Misrad HaMilpa'ah, the clinic office, because I'm calling my clinic, not the big Klalit enterprise. I'm just calling my where my doctor is. If I get to Misrad HaMilpa'ah, I'm getting to the clinic's office. There, I'm going to talk to someone specifically. If I can't slow anything down and I just need help, they'll direct me because it's a ma'ane enoshi. It's a human response. But unfortunately, there is no way to slow down the options on the phone. I wish there were. Sometimes they'll have an option that says לחזרה לתפריט. To go back to the menu, press this, right? So maybe you need to listen to it multiple times. I know I need to do that in my native language, which is English, let alone in Hebrew sometimes. But usually there's an option like that. Worst case, folks, worst case, you just redial the number. I know that's a pain, but usually you're dealing with the options at an earlier stage of the call rather than a later. I know that's not a great answer, but unfortunately there is no way to slow down the automated menu. Can you explain the construction of hinchem? Great question. So hinchem is the declension, is the conjugation of the word hine. Hine means here. We don't usually do this except in very formal Hebrew, right? Hineni, here I am. Hincha, here you are. But hincha and hinchem means you are hereby, is the best way to translate it in a very formal setting. And we use this like, here you are being transferred to, right? And that's where the word hine, here, comes in. But you're not going to speak like this on a regular basis, certainly in a casual setting. But you're usually going to use it in the second person like you hear here. Hincha to a male, hinech, female to a group of people, gender inclusive, hinchem. Hinchem muavarim le. You are hereby being transferred to. Let me put that in here, just so you get the meaning of it. Hereby. Great question. It's a really good one. You'll hear in very formal Hebrew. How does one say in Hebrew to repeat the menu? לחזרה לתפריט, right? That verb again, לחזור, to return. Let me put that in here so I know to add it in. לחזרה לתפריט. לחזרה לתפריט. And the tafrit, by the way, is going to be optional. Sometimes they'll say lechazara hakishu tesha, for a repeat or to go back to hear the entire menu, press 9. But sometimes you have to go back to the previous menu. That's what lechazara letafrit would mean. Okay, but I'll put that in there. Thank you for asking that. That's a really good option to include and not just saying. What does ech mean? Ech means how. Difference between kerega and achshav. Kerega is at the moment. Rega means moment, right? When someone in Israel does this to you, rega, with their hand their fingers pinched together like that, that means wait a minute, wait a moment, like we would say in English. Rega is simply a moment. Kerega, at the moment. Achshav means now. Right? Sorry, mitzaer ani asuk or asuka achshav. Sorry, I'm busy now. You can say that too, but I like kirega, at the moment, because saying kirega means I am open to something, right? What's the difference in English when you say to someone who calls you randomly, sorry, I'm busy at the moment, or sorry, I'm busy right now? The difference is busy at the moment means that in a little bit, I won't be busy and maybe I'll take your call, or I'm interested in having your call, versus sorry, I'm busy right now, or I'm busy now means, okay, I got the sort of passive answer response. Maybe it's not best to call back. That's how I see the difference. But kirega in Hebrew, at the moment. Last week, you said to avoid the direct English translation, ani yachol versus efshar. Instead, why are they using it this then? Great question. Thank you for reminding yourself and each of us that, because I said that very brusquely and directly last week. So why is it when you call some of these places, you get the service representative, the Netzik Sharut, who says, B'ma ani yachol la'azor lecha, or Ech ani yachol la'azor lecha? Why are they doing it? They're translating from literal English. Not that English is their native language, but they're translating from a script that they probably got from some external communications firm that told them the best way to speak to end customer representatives. Or because a lot of people will simply pick up English from TV or from general pop culture and translate it back into Hebrew. Yes, b'ma ani yachol la'azor lecha is incorrect Hebrew, but you hear people say that. I'm not going to diss customer service people in saying that they are not educated regards their Hebrew, because we depended on them a lot, and oftentimes that's just not the case. But you will hear the otherwise incorrect way to say things, right? I told you last week and the week before even, don't translate the literal English of how can I help you or can I help in doing this into Hebrew, because it's incorrect Hebrew. You will, however, hear it. איך אני יכול לעזור לך? Right? They're thinking they're being nice, and because they're translating from English language customer service they've heard from abroad, or that's the script they've given them. It is incorrect, but you will hear it. That doesn't mean you should copy it, though. Is mail always email and doar snail mail? Great question. Love these questions tonight, folks. I always love your questions, but especially tonight. Mail is always email, always. The longer way you say email is doar elektroni, but remember what I said at the beginning of this class? Mail, one syllable. Doar elektroni, 6 syllables. One syllable will always win. So mail only means email. Doar means postal mail or snail mail. Great question. When do you use bidiuk? Bidiuk means exactly. It simply means exactly. So if you're, אני רואה בתיק שיש הפניה, אבל מחכים לאישור של הרופא. I see in your file that there is a referral for blah, blah, blah service, but it's waiting for the approval from your doctor. And then you answer bidiuk, right? And exactly, that's right, right? Like, I know the situation and this is the problem we need to solve. That's how we'd use it. But bidiuk literally means exactly. What will they say for it to hear these options again or to repeat this menu? Thank you again for asking. I'll put it in there. I already put it in there. I'll make sure that it's voweled and translated. Is there a usual way to get to live person, like pressing 1 or something? Great question. There isn't. Sometimes they bury it really far down and it's really hard to get to. That's why you're going to listen to Lenetzig Shirut. Sometimes you can press 0. Sometimes you can press 9. Usually those are the 2 options you get. Sometimes it's even sulamit. It's the pound key. But I don't want to say that because there sometimes companies mix and match where they try to hide it all together and you have to go through a couple levels of going through a menu in order to get to someone. But sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's the pound sign. I can't promise though. FS is 0, Tesha 9, Sulamit, pound sign. Great question. Any tips what to do in Israel when you've pressed the button series to get to an English speaker, but then they say in Hebrew, I don't speak Hebrew? Other than be polite. I've had this multiple times. Like I said, ignore the English option altogether. Until tens of thousands of native English speakers make Aliyah en masse to Israel, the English option will almost always be faulty, unless you're calling, for example, a foreign company or an embassy that's of a native English speaking country. The English option will almost always disappoint you. Just ignore it. That's why I taught this class, so you can navigate the Hebrew one. Again, another option, we listened to options, added that there. Thank you. In one class we talked about, I would like to lodge a complaint. אני רוצה לבקש להגיש תלונה. I would like to issue a complaint. I will add those words here as well. That's a great one. How to complain. I'm going to add those words to this spreadsheet as well, so you have them. Great point. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, we are exactly at the top of the hour. First off, toda rabba, thank you all for joining. I know this is a source of frustration for many of us, this topic, as evidenced by the fact it wouldn't let me record it to help you out. But I hope this was helpful. I hope you'll practice. First off, those of you who join our conversation class on Wednesday evenings, this week we're going to go over a lot of that dialogue you saw in our spreadsheet today. So not only asking if someone needs help, but articulating what you need support for. Okay, so we're going to have those conversations, how to ask for help and also how to ask someone if they need help. Two different sides of the coin for sure. Next Monday, we are just days away, next week, just days away from the next big Jewish holiday, Shavuot. Shavuot is one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals. In Israel, it's taken on a much bigger role in everyday Israeli society, religiously observant and non-religious, in a way that in diaspora, you perhaps aren't used to. And so next week, we're going to go over how Shavuot is celebrated in Israel, which is quite different. I'm going to show you some probably some video footage of things you've probably never seen before. If you have, maybe not the context for it. How Shavuot became such a big deal in Israel, because it's a big deal. You may not feel it because of this year, but it is a big deal. We're also going to go through one of the biggest topics when it comes to Shavuot, which is dairy products. I'm going to do as much as I can to fill in our time together with everything from the major dairy products that are eaten on Shavuot, all of the different subsidized government dairy products, because those prices are fixed by the government. Come hungry next week. Come with questions. We got a lot to cover next week. But in the meantime, toda rabba, thank you all for joining. This class will be uploaded and sent to you by email in the next day or so, along with the vocabulary spreadsheet. And for those of you who join us on Wednesday, look forward to seeing you to continuing the conversation about how to ask for and give help. Until then, toda rabba, thank you all so much, and lehitraot. Take care and see you all very soon.